Hello, everybody, and welcome to Movies, Comics, Uruguay. I don't know, had to go with something. And we have a bit to talk about this week, and I'm Brandon, also known as Frogger, and with me, as always, is...
Chris, also known as Rollo T.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I
That's
can't
good.
complain. I mean, I could, but people don't want to listen to me complain. They're just like, shut up and be a fat clown. I'm just like, okay.
As you're just eating a tub of ice cream.
Yeah, I dance and eat ice cream.
Actually, I'm more imagining you with handfuls of buttercream. Just eating whole sticks.
Like, fall on a pie, you fat clown. Okay. Then eat the pie because you're fat. I don't like cherry pie.
But other than that, we actually have a fair bit to talk about this week. We even have a topic for once.
We do. We have a topic. We have a comic. We have lots of little news bits. Lots of interviews went on this week.
Yes.
That have kind of revealed a little bit about the world. And I suppose the one to maybe start with is sort of the one that doesn't have anything mind-blowing, but talks a little bit about everything.
I'm guessing it's the Feige one?
Yes. Kevin Feige talked to, I believe it was TotalFilm.com. It actually was a Q&A in, where is it, Europe, I think it was?
Yes.
Barcelona. And he talks a little bit about most of the projects being worked on right now. And he has little bits about all of them. We could kind of talk about them as they come up.
Okay.
He started off talking about the Guardians of the Galaxy movie. He talks about how Guardians of the Galaxy at the moment definitely has the potential to be a franchise. You know, he talks about how there's a lot more stories to tell. You know, they could also include the Guardians group from the 60s, all that. But the point he reiterates here a couple times, he's like, but right now we're just focused on making the first one successful and good. And that's where their focus has been. He's talked about how, you know, they haven't gone into this thinking this is going to be necessarily like a 3-picture movie. They just wanted to make the first one work. And now it's at the point where there's so much kind of anticipation for it. They feel kind of confident that it will be. So they're like, we'll start contemplating the idea of going further. But they haven't, I guess, gone into this thinking definitely sequels to this. Well, let's, not get ahead of ourselves, which is probably a pretty good plan of attack right now.
I think they're also trying to not exude too much confidence.
To be arrogant and just be like, yeah, of course Guardians is good.
We're going to make Guardians too, because then what that will do is that'll even raise expectations even higher when you're that confident. And they don't want people to go in expecting this to be the greatest movie ever made and walk out with it being good.
Yeah, exactly. They're just going to be like, look, let's take this as it is. We hope all of you enjoy Guardians. If enough of you enjoy Guardians and it makes money, we'll absolutely see more in that series because we have a lot more to tell.
It's going to make fucking bank.
It should. Again, the number I'm pining for, if it can make $450 million worldwide, it's a success in my book. Because that'll be more than I think the first Thor or Cap made. And it's a movie that doesn't have that Avengers boost going for it.
Does it have the Avengers boost? It has the lead into Avengers where people know that the next film is going to be the Avengers and it's not that far away from it. So, and then also there is nothing against it. Nothing in that caliber of a film until what?
Technically, I think Ninja Turtles opens the week after that, but I don't think people are as excited about it. I really don't think people are excited about the Michael Bay movies coming out this summer as a lot of people are trying to make them out to be. I have not heard that many people talking about Transformers, let alone, anticipating it being the biggest movie of the summer.
The difference, though, with Turtles is that it's a different kind of movie entirely, whereas Guardians is that big space movie and we're going to get science fiction, whereas Turtles is going to be a really terrible action movie. So they're two totally different genres of film. So I think that Guardians really has no competition until November.
Interstellar, yeah. I mean, if you're just talking about sci-fi movies, yeah, there's nothing. Maybe Lucy, which comes out a couple weeks earlier, if you want to call that sci-fi, but that remains to be seen how well that's going to do, because I know a lot of people are just turned off by they're just like the 10% of the brain thing again. So
I can see information.
I can change my hair color because I can think a lot. Other big news he talked about Ant-Man, and specifically he talked about Edgar Wright in association with Ant-Man, which is interesting because since the breakup happened between the two, No, neither party's really referred to it. You know, the closest you got was Simon Pegg talking about it a little bit, but he brings up Edgar Wright here specifically, and he notes that the script that is being worked on for Ant-Man is still very much the DNA of what Edgar had created. Edgar. I made him a comic book hero.
Yes.
The DNA of what Edgar had created up until this point, and that Adam McKay is essentially going to be doing kind of punch up to it. He's going to rework parts of the script. Particularly the parts they probably had issues with before that caused Edgar to leave, and he'll probably add a couple jokes and stuff like that in there. But for people who are worried that, you know, the version we'll see will never be seen, there'll still be pieces of it in there.
I'm the way that they're talking about reworking it is, I think that whole thing of him wanting to be a little separate from the MCU is starting to have a little bit of credence. I don't know about you.
That he wouldn't be attached to the other characters.
He wants it to be more solo.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible, but the thing that they note here is that, you know, Kevin Feige is like, again, Ant-Man is a very important character for us. We like that people don't necessarily know what it is, and, you know, it sounds sort of strange when you hear Ant-Man, but he's a very key Marvel character. He's a key Avenger. So I imagine even though they're creating this, like, eventually this guy's going to be in the Avenger movies.
Yeah.
Because he's, you know, that's what they feel, that's what they think about this character. He's a key Avenger. So one way or the other, they're like, this guy is going to be a part of the Marvel universe at large, and maybe that was just Edgar Wright's version. It's just like, I don't want it to, you know, necessarily be like, you know, it ends with him and Tony Stark fucking shooting basketballs or something. Yeah.
I was gonna say you kind of had a big old pause after the fucking, so I'm like, what is it gonna be? Each other?
Yeah, they're just banging each other and just like, we're the first R-rated Marvel movie. We wait till the end with it. Just like, that was a terrible idea. I don't know why you guys did that. You lost thousands of dollars for a thing nobody's going to see.
Best.
He talks a little bit as well about Doctor Strange. And really the bit about Doctor Strange that's interesting is that, you know, with Guardians of the Galaxy, this is our opening into the cosmic side of the Marvel Universe. And we'll get into that a little bit more later on. But Doctor Strange, as Kevin Feige says, is going to be the MCU's entry into the mystical or supernatural side of the Marvel Universe. And if it's successful, you know, this opens the door for them to do a lot more projects. I mean, off the top of my head, the first thing I thought of when he said this is like, there's not an impossibility that if this success, we might see Ghost Rider back on screen again. Maybe not in his own solo movie, but, you know, maybe Doctor Strange 2, Ride of Ghost Rider, or something bullshit like that.
Ghost Riding.
Yeah, riding ghostly, something stupid like that. But that was a character I was like, instantly, if this is success and they can prove that it can work because you tie it in the universe and you make a solid script, that'll be very interesting. Sort of the big news to come out of that, though, was that casting for Doctor Strange should be happening within the next month or two, and production is going to start early next year, which is basically going to be penciling in this movie where we all kind of thought it was going to be. It's going to be the second movie in 2016, opposite Cap 2, probably premiering sometime in the summer, maybe around July or so.
Which I'm pretty excited about.
Yeah. So we basically know the schedule for Phase 3 is going to start off Ant-Man, then Cap 3, then Doctor Strange, and then presumably Thor after that, though, you know, who knows what could happen.
Who knows what could happen. I do like the fact that they're kind of doing better than they did with this phase, where they're having more original films jumping in than mostly sequels.
Yeah, and that was their big thing they mentioned with this phase. They're like, we want each year to have 2 movies, and the first movie is going to be an established property, and the second one's going to be a new property, because we want to introduce some new blood into this. So, you know, Ant-Man, Doctor Strange, and then presumably Black Panther, maybe. You know, maybe you'll get something else in there. But that seems like a pretty good setup right there, I think.
Yeah.
That's what they decided to go with. And there's a final little bit here, though this shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. He talked briefly on the notion of Spider-Man or X-Men crossing over with the Avengers movie.
He's like, I don't want to rule it out, blah, blah, blah.
Essentially, they're doing very great. We wouldn't, you know, we'd love for it to happen, but probably not going to happen anytime soon because both of them are doing very well. So
I did like the fact that he specifically mentioned that X-Men did really well, and he didn't really say that too much specifically about Spider-Man, did he?
He holds it off for a while, you know, because he mentions like Fox is doing very well, Days of Future Past, Sony same thing, and then eventually he says, you know, they'll be fine as long as they keep succeeding. But he doesn't mention as quickly right out of the bat as he does with Days of Future Past, though. I can't imagine that's intentional. I feel like someone in his position wouldn't be the one to be like, it didn't do as well as they thought it would, because to be completely honest, Days of Future Past didn't do as well as they wanted it to either.
It didn't do as well as they thought it would, but at least it was critically a lot better.
Oh, yeah.
And that helps leaps and bounds, because as long as it does critically well, they could end up chalking it up to people didn't really want to go and see it. It came out at the wrong time, fatigue, all that nonsense. It's probably going to have a really good back end when it hits home media.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that was Kevin Feige's little interview. And I don't know, dude. We got news on Guardians of the Galaxy. We've got Ant-Man news. We got Doctor Strange news. We got Avengers 2 news. We've got Daredevil news. What do you want to jump at first?
Let's jump right into some street level stuff.
All right. So with Daredevil right now, 2 little pieces of news came out. The first one, kind of small, and I'm just going to bring this up because it's out there. The director of Luther, and I think he also directed a couple episodes of Doctor Who, I'm not entirely sure on that, Farron Blackburn, confirmed through Twitter that he is going to be directing an episode of Daredevil. Now, I don't know this guy at all. I've not watched Luther. I don't watch Doctor Who, so I don't know this guy. But the response to everybody who heard this news, who have seen that stuff, is really excited about this. So I'm going to presume that this guy has some, modicum of talent, and that's why people are so excited about this.
Sure, sounds cool.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
That is sure something you just mentioned.
Yeah, I'll eventually just check an episode of Luther out just to be like, is this good? But it had Idris Elba in it, so
More Idris Elba doesn't hurt anybody.
Yeah, but the big news to come out this week is Rosario Dawson has joined Marvel's Daredevil, which is awesome because I love Rosario Dawson. I think she's incredibly talented. She's a very good actress, very funny as well. If you've ever seen Clerks 2. She has joined Daredevil, though her role is not identified.
Electra. Sorry. Oh, man.
All right. Here's the thing. In the press release, they explain Rosario Dawson is one of the most charismatic, talented, blah, 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 blah. Her role in the series is absolutely critical to Matt Murdock's journey to become the hero we know as Daredevil. Now, there are currently a couple theories running out about who she might be. You have expressed your thought on who she might be. The other ones I've heard is Typhoid Mary, Echo, and Night Nurse. In addition to Elektra. All of those seem like possibilities to me.
Maybe not as much Typhoid Mary.
Typhoid Mary, I think she could do, but reading up on Typhoid Mary, she sounds like she'd be too much for the first season. It sounds like you're taking away. Well, not that so much as she'd be taking. Like, there's so much. This is a person. For those of you who don't know, Typhoid Mary essentially has multiple personalities after she gets injured in an accident that's caused by Daredevil. So she develops 3 personalities that all have their own distinct opinions on things. And at the same time, she's like a master assassin. So you'd have to develop this woman who has constantly shifting personalities, her relation to Matt Murdock, you already kind of had to ground things down with her because she's supposed to be a psychic assassin. She's supposed to have mild telepathy as a mutant, and I think pyrokinesis as well. So you'd have to kind of write those down. But it just feels like that's a personality that's so big. You wouldn't want to be doing it at the same time you're trying to introduce audiences to this new Daredevil.
And what I meant by goofy is the mutant powers. And the problem is that Marvel doesn't seem to like to take a character like that and then change them so much that they're irrecognizable.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that they would have to do that to Typhoid Mary to make it work on TV.
Yeah, I think she could work. Maybe like if they do a season 2 for it or something like that. When there's more time and maybe you kind of slowly introduce those aspects to. I don't know how you'd handle the pyrokinesis shit, but they could find some way to make that work. Echo was the one that when I read it initially was like, oh yeah, it has to be her.
Yeah,
because it seems like first and foremost she kind of already looks like her. She's definitely got the lips that I think kind of are, distinct in that fashion. I think, you get a wig on her or if she grows her hair out, she'll have it. And it feels like a character who would fit well in the Daredevil that we already know exists. Daredevil's here, Kingpin's here. For the character, for those of you who don't know, is essentially the daughter of a mob boss who's killed by Kingpin. And the mob boss' last request is, take my daughter and raise her. And she's raised by Kingpin, but he lies that, he was the one who killed her father. And he eventually says Daredevil did it. So she grows up trying to hate Daredevil, tries to kill him. But eventually, she falls in love with Matt Murdock, not realizing it's him, and eventually helps turn her away from it. It sounds like an easy season 1 kind of story to do with her.
It sounds like a good arc, too,
yeah,
for the season.
And you attach everybody with her. You attach Daredevil, you attach her, you attach Kingpin, all in one thing. And that sounds like the kind of story they'd want to tell. Because you add some complexity in the Kingpin in that as well. He's not just evil guy. He's like, I actually care for this person like a daughter.
Yeah, that allows that to happen. And then the moment that you start to feel for him as a character, like this, I'm imagining what they're gonna do is that he's not really gonna tell her that much prior to the series starting about who killed her father, and then it's gonna be like that's gonna be the moment that you're going to hate the Kingpin completely, is when he says that.
Yeah,
that's gonna be their knife twist into the audience on the Kingpin as a character. And I imagine a really good either mid season, although I'm thinking in traditional terms, this is Netflix, a very good actually way to probably get close to the end of the season would be for the reveal to happen that it was in fact not Daredevil.
Yeah, and that it was this guy. Yeah, it seems like they could easily have a great story. Now, obviously these other options have merit as well, though.
Elektra is the only problem with that with Elektra is that everyone was already on board with Daredevil. I think that it was really funny how the biggest reaction to Daredevil was, oh, it's probably going to be good this time. Wasn't it?
And generally, people, when they want to attach things to the Ben Affleck Daredevil, you think generally that the acting wasn't great. The acting wasn't fine. The writing was bad. And
it was just really bad casting.
Yeah, and Elektra was not very good. Like, those are the things you kind of think about when you attach to that movie.
But yeah, when Elektra pops up, you're like, oh, that was bad.
Yeah, and you kind of wonder, would they take the risk? Because they're already trying to revive a hero who doesn't have the best name recognition in pop culture outside of comic book fans. But do they want to revive him and attach to that the same character who also existed in that property?
As long as they destroy an Evanescence album during the show, I'm completely fine with it. But no, I could imagine what they're gonna do, because Elektra was the knee-jerk reaction, obviously.
Mm-hmm. But that was my knee-jerk reaction, yeah.
That would be a really good tease throughout the series of Elektra being there.
Yeah.
Of just her being kind of like doing some things in the background, especially towards the end of the season.
Yeah, and I could absolutely see that is what they're going with, especially if she becomes a character who kind of influences beyond maybe this series, because it's not really clear yet what happens when Daredevil ends. Does Charlie Cox just go off and sit off somewhere until the Defenders series comes out, or is he going to be existing in those other these other Marvel properties as well, or do they start working on a season 2, or what exactly happens with that?
I guess it all depends on how well it does, all that stuff, and I'm also wondering what their game plan is if this stuff works and goes like gangbusters.
Yeah, if this blows up, what do they do then?
Are they saying like, well, I guess we gotta have Murdock in Avengers 3?
I would love that. I would love to see that happen. Yeah, I mean, she has all these characters. The only one we haven't mentioned really is Night Nurse, and that was when I had to kind of read up on it. From what I gathered, there's not a whole lot on her, but essentially she's like a medic for superheroes. Like, that's what she specializes in. She was saved by a superhero at some point, so she becomes like dedicated to helping superheroes out. They're doing what she can to protect their identities while still, trying to heal them through all their various difficulties that, come in trying to care for a superhero.
It would be a really interesting character, but I don't think it's going to be Rosario Dawson.
Yeah, that seems a little low for her. Again, Echo's the one I think it's going to be.
I do as well. But then I got to say about Night Nurse, though. That'd be a really cool series.
It would be. I wouldn't honestly be surprised she still shows up during this, especially during Luke Cage's part.
She could be a thread through all 4.
Yeah, she could easily. Yeah, that could easily be a character who just exists throughout all 4 of these series. And I would be totally awesome with that.
As long as it's cast awesomely, which Marvel.
Yeah.
And, it could easily be a thread throughout this, and it could easily even be a thread to the movies. Who knows?
Yeah. But I really like this news. I thought it was great casting news.
I forgot about Night Nurse.
Rosario Dawson, again, I really like her stuff, so I'm really excited to see. This Daredevil show is really shaping up in a good manner.
And as I said, Daredevil is a great book, so I am excited to see how well this is going to finally translate, and if they're going to take some of the Miller stuff, back before he went completely insane.
Yeah.
Miller. But yeah, so let's move on to let's do Guardians next.
Okay, so some news came out about Guardians, and I imagine you know the Latino Review. They're a news website known for getting quote unquote scoops. And
news, sometimes I'm using news in quotes here.
Yeah, I had air quotes going on there too.
Yeah.
They've sometimes had scoops. Most of the time, though, it's very baseless conjecture. A while back, they were the ones who said a new Hulk movie is confirmed based off of a Lou Ferrigno interview where he said, "Oh, and I'm going to be voicing Hulk in the next one." What they didn't do is use basic reading comprehension skills to see that Hulk or Lou Ferrigno was saying, "I'm doing Hulk in Avengers 2."
Wasn't it also Latino who broke the fact that their like Phase 2 stuff was completely out of whack?
Yeah, they're terrible for this kind of stuff. Every so often they get something right, but it's almost like they throw enough shit on the wall, something's gonna stick.
It's Planet Hulk Phase 2. I remember that.
The big news that came out this week is that we know Nathan Fillion is going to be in Guardians of the Galaxy. We've known that. We haven't known what role he's going to play. And people have been kind of theorizing it for a while. I don't know why, because it didn't sound like he was going to have a huge role to begin with. But eventually, I think it was Latino Review who started this. They were just like, speculation, could Nathan Fillion play Nova? And eventually, it got so far. It was like Purple Monkey Dishwasher. It eventually reached the point where news sites just published a story, Nathan Fillion to play Nova. No speculation, no rumor, nothing like that. It was just like, it's been confirmed. Nobody ever confirmed it. And eventually James Gunn had to go onto Twitter and say, Nathan Fillion has a small, fun cameo role he did as a favor to me, but he is not Nova. Sorry, humans.
I would have loved him as Nova.
Yeah, he's not going to be Nova. He's not going to be Star Fox. He's not going to be any of these characters that people are trying to make him out to be. But it goes even further than this, because people then started reading into James Gunn's tweet. And he noted at the end of it, he says, sorry, humans. What if the character's not human? What if he's playing Cosmo the space dog?
I would be so in for that.
I would be in for it, but it's not happening. It's great because James Gunn again had to take to Twitter for this. He just tweets, your fan journalists need new sources, because that's all that keeps happening is someone tweets, I have a source that says Nathan Fillion's going to be playing Cosmo. Nothing else. No verification on the source. I think the website that came out was like anotherpersonnews.com, like some bullshit website you've never heard of before this that supposedly has the scoop. And it's just like, you guys are just reaching at straws. The truth about the Nathan Fillion cameo is that it's a small, fun cameo. It's not going to shake the Marvel Universe. He's not going to be playing a big Marvel character, because this is a cameo he said he did as a favor to James Gunn. He doesn't have a Marvel contract that's, has him run through several pictures. So he's not going to be playing anyone that's big and important in that way. So my thought in this is he's probably just going to be like a Nova Corps guy, or he might be like a space captain who's just like, space travel, isn't it fucking crazy? Or he might even show up as Mal. Like, maybe that'll be like the fun thing. They're just like, oh, look, fucking Firefly exists in this universe. Like, expect something on that level, and stop trying to attach Nathan Fillion to fucking Adam Warlock or any other space character. You're like, it has to be this.
Like, I was hoping for Warlock. That was who I was hoping for, but since James Gunn said no, it's just going to be a cameo, I'm like, okay, not Warlock. Let's move on.
Yeah, and everybody is trying to attach this guy to every single character who exists in the cosmic universe, and it's very unfortunate.
Also, he probably wouldn't play somebody major just because I believe he still has a DC contract.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be someone big, I think it's cool he's going to have a cameo in there. That's what I'm excited about.
Yes,
so
I agree.
That's a little bit of news there. But James Gunn also did an interview with Badass Digest where he talks a little bit about Guardians of the Galaxy, in particular, Nowhere, which is the floating skull in space that, if you read the comics, was the base of operations for the Guardians of the Galaxy. Mm-hmm. It is a dead Celestial's head, which is used, it's basically an entire city in there. And he talks about how, people were wondering when that came up, they're like, holy shit, does this open the door for the Celestials in the Marvel Universe? What does this mean? And Gunn admits that is Nowhere, and this is indeed going to be confirmation that the Celestials are existing in the MCU, and then we're going to see more of them. His quote is, we have a couple of Celestials who we refer to in the film. They're part of the overall structure of the cosmic universe. They're part of the fun of what the movie is. And he goes on to explain, our characters to some degree have superpowers, but at the same time, they're just ordinary citizens of the galaxy. They just happen to be renegades, basically bikers, yada, yada, yada. There are characters like Thanos involved, and then there are characters bigger than that. Suddenly, these mortals are playing in the fields of gods. I always find that a very interesting thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna get some Celestials referenced in this movie. Probably not Galactus, because I'm pretty sure he's just exclusive to Fox. The Fantastic Four.
I still have no idea how that thing shook up. Oh, that's right, because they tried to get it back. That's why they tried to play ball with Daredevil, was to get him back for Guardians, probably.
Yeah, so that's what they ended up trying to do, but it didn't work out. So I think Guardians or Galactus and Silver Surfer are just Fox exclusive at the moment. But they have other Celestials they can use, and things like other cosmic beings that they can play with. The Avatar of Death is something we may start hearing about.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of stuff that they can be working on here. I think it's very cool we're hearing about this. I really wouldn't have known much about this if I didn't read the comics, so it wouldn't have much of an impact on me. But now that I've read the Guardians of the Galaxy comic and I've seen, a fucking wall of Celestials go on to fight a giant epic battle, I'm like, this could be pretty fucking pimp.
Yeah. when Galactus shows up, shit's real.
Yeah, when fucking Living Tribunal shows up, you're kind of like, all right, let's see where things go with this, because this could be bad dice.
Mm-hmm.
But no, just a little interesting, little bit of news there that came out in an interview, and that's all the Guardian stuff we have right now. So, guess we'll jump into a small little bit of Ant-Man news.
Sweet.
This is technically a spoiler. So if you don't want to be spoiled for anything about the Ant-Man movie, stop here, skip ahead a little bit, and we'll stop talking about it then. But if you are interested in this, keep listening.
I'm interested.
So we have confirmed now who the villain in Ant-Man is going to be. Do you know who it is?
Who is it?
It's Yellow Jacket.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. That's actually surprising. For those of you who are not familiar with the Marvel Universe, Yellow Jacket is actually the alter ego, or basically another role that Hank Pym took. Eventually he had kind of a personality shift. He stopped being Ant-Man and he became a harder, edgier character called Yellow Jacket. And because this movie doesn't feature Hank Pym as Ant-Man, Michael Douglas is playing him while Scott Lang is playing, or Paul Rudd is playing Scott Lang, who's the actual Ant-Man. This basically freed up Yellow Jacket, who is going to be the villain in this. We don't know who's going to be playing him yet. We don't know exactly what he's going to be doing, but it's interesting to see Yellow Jacket's going to show up in the movie, and they're going to switch him over and make him a villain.
Maybe it's Michael Douglas.
That would be very interesting. I don't know if I'd like that. I saw the preview for something or Ain't Got Nothing or some god-awful Michael Douglas movie coming out in the next month with Diane Keaton, and it hurt my stock a little bit for Ant-Man, because it was just like, oh, Michael Keaton, or not Michael Keaton, fucking Michael Douglas, what have you done to yourself?
He saved up all of his acting for Ant-Man. That was the problem.
So I might have to watch Behind the Candelabra again just to be reminded that Michael Douglas can be an incredible actor, because that fucking movie looks terrible.
It could also still be one of those things where he's had a terrible director.
Yeah, it's very possible, but I thought this is very interesting news. I'll be very curious to see how they decide to execute that. So, we're at 9.
Okay.
All right. Doctor Strange, or you want to get into some Avengers?
Let's do some Doc Strange. That's the big one to me.
Yes. All right. 2 little bits of news came out about this, and one of them's less news and more basically a little bit of a discussion on this. We now found out that the writer of Prometheus, what is his name here?
The one that's not the guy from Lost.
Yeah, not Lindelof.
Yeah.
Why can't I find his name here?
Although I don't mind Lindelof, the guy's very awesomely self-deprecating.
John Spates. There you go. John Spates.
Him.
He is going to be helping to write the new script for Doctor Strange. And I like Damon Lindelof. I love Lost, but he would not be great in a Doctor Strange. I don't want him in anything MCU related, because when he writes something, he tends to make it very existential and confusing. So just keep him out of that stuff. But no, John Spates is going to be in to help write the movie, so that's an interesting thing. But in this, it came from an article on ScreenRant.com. I believe it says that Deadline initially, Joe Blow, JoeBlow.com had an interview with Scott Derrickson where he talked about how excited he was to get this. And hearing his quotes here are pretty reassuring for this movie because it sounds like this is a guy who was like, I fucking want this.
Mm-hmm.
His quote is, I wanted it really bad, more than any other project I've gone after. I felt compelled to do everything in my power to get on that project, genuinely felt I was the right guy to do it. And he notes, how interested it's been to him because the news has come out. He expected it to be kind of half and half, people will be shading on it, but he says it's been almost exclusively a positive reaction to it. I expected detractors, and they just haven't really shown up. So it's good to see this general enthusiasm for people excited to see me doing a Doctor Strange movie. And they're saying this is a movie we want to see now. So that's very awesome, and it's cool to see this guy this excited about this movie.
Mm-hmm. It's infectious.
Yes, infectious like a disease. Ooh. So that was really cool. And there is a small rumor right now. We may have our first piece of casting news for the Doctor Strange. Not confirmed, but Venezuelan actor Edgar Ramirez, who some of you might know. I believe he was in Zero Dark 40. Right 30. Now he's 30, whatever. I just added up a couple.
It was a sequel.
I made it better.
Yeah.
But he's also in Deliver Us from Evil right now, which Scott Derrickson is directing. He was quoted when doing an interview about Deliver Us from Evil. Someone asked him, have you been approached about Doctor Strange? And his quote is, we're talking. We've been talking. That doesn't say anything necessarily either way. He may be in it. He may not be in it. But it is interesting. I feel like this is probably a lot closer than a lot of the other pieces of casting news we hear, just because this guy already has a connection to the guy directing the movie. Mm-hmm. So if Scott Derrickson likes this guy, it absolutely could happen. I don't know much about him. I haven't seen any of those movies he's been in, unfortunately. So I can't tell you from my perception if he's a good actor, but no one that I've heard, I've kind of been reading the comments on it. Nobody seems really negative on this news, so.
I think it's mostly because with the MCU, we're like, okay.
Yeah, well, let's go for it. Again, not confirmed yet, but worth noting.
And now, the biggie.
Yes, so a little bit of Avengers news here. And again, this is small spoiler, so if you don't want anything spoiled for Avengers 2 whatsoever, skip ahead just a little bit. But there has been some rumors, and this actually came out a little bit ago, that the actor who plays Agent Triplet on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was seen on the set of Avengers.
Yup.
And people were just like, oh, this might mean that, maybe he's in there, maybe he represents Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. What's come out is that there may be some scenes of Season 2 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that are being filmed on the set of Age of Ultron to help maybe connect them to that moment. What's interesting is that another rumor is out right now that suggests that Black Widow, Hawkeye, and Sharon Carter may all appear on the next season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Which would be nice. That means we'd have probably doubled our Hawkeye.
There'd be so much Hawkeye, I wouldn't know what to do with it all.
I know, it'd be ridiculous. That's a very strong idea. I mean, if they've already got them on set. I mean, I thought Scarlett Johansson was already done, though.
Yeah, I don't know. She might be coming on. She might be even just a voice or something like that,
Because I thought she has the whole baby thing going on.
She does. I mean, you could easily just have her on a fucking screen or something like that.
Or it might be something that they're going to film later.
Absolutely, that's another possibility as well. I don't know how far along on her pregnancy she is.
I know that she was far enough along that they had to film her stuff first.
Yeah.
So that she could, save the baby stuff.
Exactly. So that's a possibility as well. I guess we'll kind of see what happens with that. But having all three of those on the show, I think, would be very cool. We've kind of noted we've only gotten the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents on the show, with Maria Hill and Nick Fury. It'd be cool to see the Avengers on there, even if it's just Hawkeye and Black Widow.
Oh yeah, just Hawkeye, whatever.
Hawkeye. I like Hawkeye, but he doesn't have radioactive gamma powers or super shield, so
Well, I also think that they've also specifically said about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that that's not what it's about.
Yeah, that's not what it's about. But these two are S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, or ex-S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, I guess,
or whatever.
Yeah, whatever we're classifying them at this point. But I think it's very cool news if they do appear on it. Again, just rumors at this point. But if that's the case, I think that's going to be extremely awesome. Plus, if they can tie the TV universe even further with the movie universe by having the two intersect in a give and take motion, I think that would be awesome as well. I don't know how much they can do because I don't know how far Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. airs outside of the U.S., which I think they'd be worried about confusing the...
I know it's in the UK. I know that at least.
Yeah, but they pull in a lot of money overseas in their movies, and I just don't know if they want to confuse too many audiences by being like, you don't know this guy? He's from the show.
So well, I think Triplet is one of those that could be very easily talked about.
Yeah, and he's not too, like, it's not like it's Coulson, where you can introduce him into it.
Oh, it's easy. Have a beat Cap.
Yeah, I think it's
5 seconds.
Boom, done and done.
It's like, oh, my dad was blah, blah, blah from your team, and then they have a moment.
And they start making out.
Yeah, blah. You taste like your father.
You kiss like him, too.
Yeah, so that's the easy way of doing that. It's like they don't have to specifically say, oh, I'm working with Coulson and blah, blah, blah. It could very easily just be the fact that be very mysterious about it, all that nonsense, and just the fact that his father was a Howling Commando goes a long way.
Mm-hmm.
That might be why his father was a Howling Commando.
There you go.
Boom.
Oh, did you see the Empire covers, by the way?
I did. I was actually much more excited about the Villains cover.
Yeah, the Villains cover looks cool.
Yeah. It's just at the point now where I'm kind of like, you guys are in your big push now, so I'm kind of like, whoa. I need to push back. I need to push myself back away from this a little bit. I don't want to.
Yeah, I'm almost a little OD'd on Guardian stuff right now. I'm kind of like mellowing out because we're basically about a little more than a month away.
Mm-hmm.
About 5 weeks away on Thursday, so I'm super excited.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is getting to that point where I'm getting so much information about this, I almost need to step back a little bit. Which is why I get so frustrated when everyone's like, oh, but you know who Nathan Fillion just has to be? He's fucking Star Fox. Star Fox. His power was to make people horny. You think fucking Fox or Marvel's going to do that when Disney owns them?
It would be perfect for Nathan Fillion, though.
Unless it's a Pornhub series. They're not doing it.
All of a sudden, like, Disney with Pornhub.
We're expanding our content. We've done movies. We're doing television. Our next spot, online internet content, and what better way of doing it than through Pornhub?
Get James Gunn. He's worked with porn actors.
Oh, yeah. I'll be all over that. Be directing Nathan Fillion, some hot sex scenes.
Well, he was pretty close to PG porn, the very first one, with Nathan Fillion and whatever her porn actress name is.
Mm-hmm.
With the skit called Nailing Your Wife. But yeah, so that's it for the news. That's that's a lot of talk and not a lot of substance, turns out.
Yeah, unfortunately, nothing huge outside of the Rosario Dawson news.
Yes.
Nothing really big came out this week.
But we've said it's because we're not at Comic-Con yet.
Yeah, we're not at Comic-Con, and that's coming up very soon. That's like what, a week or two from now?
A week or two. So we're gearing up for Comic-Con. So they are going to let little bits of information come out. I believe it's actually 3.
Seriously?
Because I believe it's after the 4th.
What a bummer, man.
No, that would be about 2 weeks then. Yeah, probably the week after the 4th is Comic-Con. But yeah, it's just we are gearing up to that. So they're not going to be like, oh, by the way, Hulk movie Phase 3, boom, here it is. They're just not going to do that.
Yeah, it seems pretty clear on that.
Yeah, we have something to talk about now.
We do. Oh, by the way, apparently Comic-Con is July 24th through the 27th, so we're actually really far away from it. We're about a month away.
Yeah, so
I thought
statement still stands. We're still too close to it.
Yeah.
So, we watched the movie.
We did.
So we
not
watched
Guardians yet, though. That's not out.
Curses. So we have specifically watched the Doctor Strange animated movie. I've seen it a few times, actually, before this. Mm-hmm. And this was your first time seeing it. Let's go into base reactions. What did you think of it?
I thought it was good. I thought it was interesting. I did not know very much about Doctor Strange going into this. I knew vague little pieces of it. I knew of Baron Mordo. I knew vaguely of Dormammu. But I didn't really know how they fit into things. I didn't know much about it. I didn't know his backstory. I didn't know who Wang was at all. Or not Wang. Was it his friend?
Yeah.
Wen? Or is it Wang?
I think it might be. I'm as much in the dark as Doc Strange. He's just one of those guys I never bumped into that much.
Yeah, it's like Wen or Wang or something like that. I guess he's actually a recurring character in that series. So I thought that was kind of cool to kind of see all that. There were a little bit of problems here and there with it, and I think part of it's just because I've been at the same time doing this. I'm watching the DC animated stuff, and I always just marvel at how well they managed to execute all their things. There's a little bit of pacing problems with the movie, but I thought it was really interesting to see this side of the character. He has a really cool moment where he finally becomes the hero. And, he gets this heroic moment to save all these kids in the hospital, and he's dashing around trying to pull them out of this astral realm. And once he sees them all get up and leave, he's trying to save all these kids. It's a really cool moment.
I also really like his breakthrough. Is one of my favorite moments. But I was actually talking to somebody about this, and I believe like the first third of that movie is incredibly good, and they could probably just chop that off and make it live action, and it would work as an intro to the movie up until he makes it to the mountains.
The mountains are going to be a little tough to tolerate, especially because you have to really write the Ancient One's dialogue carefully, because if you make it too mystic, it comes off as pretentious and confusing to the audience. You have to really make sure that it sounds wise, but it can't be obviously wise. Like, he can't just be like, you should let go of past. Like, he needs to be more insightful than that. So I feel like if they can carefully write those moments, they've got a great piece right there. Yeah. And I definitely see what people say about this character when they're like, this is a dude whose fall is fucking hard.
Oh, yeah.
This isn't, Spider-Man goes and he has no money in the bank account. This is a guy who fucking loses everything.
Like, twice.
Yeah, and then it has to come back up from that. And I think that is extremely cool. It does make his eventual redemption all that more sweet when you're like, this guy actually is kind of cool.
Yeah, that's what I mean is, like, his loftiness down to his fall, to his further fall, and his trek through the mountains, like, up until he, like, leaves for the mountains, I think is damn near perfect. Mm-hmm. That is done incredibly well in the movie with his car accident, because I need to actually go into that for people who don't know Doc Strange that well. He is a surgeon. A very good surgeon. Specifically in the comics, he's a heart surgeon. I think they actually say he's a heart surgeon in the movie, too.
I thought he was a neurosurgeon because his sister had that brain issue.
That's right, and he was a heart surgeon, I believe, in the comics. He may be a neurosurgeon. I thought he was a heart surgeon, though. But, whatever, I could be wrong. I'm not very well versed in Doc Strange.
You fool! We got a movie coming out. We need you to become an expert.
I'm actually going to be. That's going to be on my next docket. Like, after I saw how Metal Guardians was, I brushed up on that very quick. But, yeah, by the way, I'm also a little bit hazy on the movie. I actually watched it the night we recorded the last podcast is when I watched it. So as opposed to, it's been a week. But he has a car accident where he loses the ability to control his hands well. He has very little motor function left in his hands. So he then spends all of his money trying to find a cure, and he eventually bumps into these mystic people who are like, we'll help you with your hands. Mm. And spiritual journey, monsters, blah, 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 betrayal.
Yeah. And the way he loses his ability in the hands is actually rather, like, viciously done. Because they could have just he gets in a car accident, that's the thing that happens. But they actually show it is that when the car is flipping over and it's kind of falling down this cliff, he puts his hands up to kind of brace himself against the roof. But then as the car collapses, the roof kind of crunches down on his hands. So you can kind of see why his hands would get so fucked up from that.
And that X-ray, when they actually show the damage done to his hands, is awful.
Yeah. The only thing I will say, though, is afterwards, the reason he gets in the accident, he has this basically a guilt trip laid on him because he refused to help these kids because it's not worth his career. It doesn't advance him any further. They don't have the money for it. It's not that interesting of a case to him. He just can't do anything for it. And he sees them on the road. He swerves off to try to avoid them. And he wakes up, he's like, did I hit the kids? And then they say, no witnesses saw any kids. It's like, what witnesses? He was on a fucking dark road alone.
In the fog.
Yeah, what fucking witnesses were there?
That was like the hand wave, like, there were no witnesses.
I can just imagine some dude sitting on the side of the road drinking a beer like, he did.
He's super dead.
He did his shit.
Fireball comes up out of the canyon. Yeah, he did.
The one thing I didn't realize the supernatural elements played a role in him prior to becoming Doctor Strange.
I think they play it up a bit more in the movie where, like, that is how they figure out that he's a candidate.
Yeah, because that's actually one of the things I kind of liked about the movie is he's not And I don't know, maybe this changes later on, but at the moment, he's not the special one. Like, he doesn't get it because, oh my god, you have such latent, incredible magic powers within you. They're just like, you don't want it. That's why you're perfect for the role. Like, that's why you are the perfect person to have the eye. Because you don't want it. And I like that. I'm so tired of destined heroes. So I like this idea.
He's the destined hero because he doesn't have the destiny to be the hero.
Yeah, they're just like, you don't want it. You're fucking perfect for it. You're not going to be driven by greed and lust for power.
Like a certain other person.
Yeah, like a certain other barren dickhead.
Mm-hmm. The other thing that the movie kind of suffers from is condensing.
Mm-hmm.
It does condense a little bit too much towards the end.
Yeah, it has to wrap up so much. It just starts to kind of just zip in.
Mm. But I think all in all, it's probably the best of their movies, isn't it?
Probably. I've not seen very many of them, but I do know that quite a few people have mentioned that most of them aren't very good. So it's not impossible that this might be the best.
Like, I'd say this one's not bad. The other ones that can range from, it's okay to, ooh.
Yeah. I very much like it. I think it's definitely worth the watch if you guys are interested in that kind of stuff. Doctor Strange's one you're definitely going to want to get acquainted with. If you're into the MCU movies, he's coming up sooner rather than later.
Yup.
That Kevin Feige, I forgot to mention this, that Feige interview is actually the first real confirmation we've had that they're doing this movie.
Yeah, he's like, by the way, Doc Strange. And it's like, so it is actually happening.
He's like, it's not just a rumor or anything like that. No, that's actually fucking happening. So
I believe, though, he did say that they were making a Doc Strange movie like 3 years ago, something like that.
Oh, yeah. And he's mentioned, I think, that they've been looking to do it for a while. But this is the first actual confirmation since the Scott Derrickson reveal, where he tweeted that he was doing the movie, that we've actually gotten anything official from Marvel.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to start reading Doc Strange. I mean, I've picked a few trades. Doc Strange is also one of those guys who doesn't usually have his own line.
Yeah, that's the thing I was about to say. He doesn't normally have his own book. From what I understand, I guess he had a book during the 70s that was very trippy, and that's where a lot of people kind of fell in love with Doctor Strange. But outside of that, he's usually been a part of big event books because he's just that kind of character. He says, like, look, I don't deal with small-time shit. I only deal with, like, reality shifting or destroying events. So.
Like a certain witch deciding to change reality.
Yeah, that fucking bitch. I deal with that.
Yeah, he shows up. Hell no!
He's like, oh, fuck this.
And can you just imagine he rolls out of bed just going, damn it. Okay, time to deal with Scarlet Witch again.
Fucking Dormammu, oh my god.
It's like he just calls up, hey, Dormammu, could you take a break for like a couple days? I gotta go deal with this Scarlet Witch. She's on my ass again.
Fucking, oh my god.
He's like, yo, dude, I'm going nowhere near that shit.
He's like, good, fucking unbelievable. She's trying to end all humanity because she fucking woke up and they didn't have waffles. I don't get it. She's just annoying like that. She fucking loves a robot.
I know, it's weird.
So weird. It's like she hasn't seen her. It's never gonna work. Anyway, gotta go redo reality.
Again. But no, there has been a few Doc Strange only event books, which I've heard one of them is really good. So I need to read up on that. Also, Doc Strange is definitely of the level and caliber to deal with a Thanos-based incident.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yup. That's actually a really decent character to bring in for Thanos.
Mm-hmm.
That might be why. But yes, so Doc Strange was a movie worth watching. It's not the best of things. Just go in understanding that Marvel animated movies aren't that great. Like, how the fuck does he have an office that big? That is a tall-ass office. That is a 2-story tall office.
Hey, neurosurgeons are known for occasionally trying to climb ladders and other things in their office.
And he has pictures up to the ceiling. That was ridiculous. And it's like, why would you have pictures up that high?
I also like that the main motivation for him is a sister. You don't get to see a lot of sibling love in these kind of situations.
Yes, it's usually like true.
It's usually love interests.
Correct.
It's why I always loved the movie Jeepers Creepers. If you ever got to see it with Justin Long.
Yep, I did.
I always loved that movie because I'm like, it's not a fucking boyfriend girlfriend. It's a fucking brother and his sister. For some reason, that makes it so much more horrible and painful when you see bad things happening to them. Because she's just like, no, it's like my family.
My family, no.
Oh, my family.
But yeah, I'm actually pretty excited to see more of Doc Strange, and that's one of the reasons when we get into the comics, we're not going to have one this week, because I want to spend some time trying to discover new comics, because I got to do that from time to time. I can't constantly just say, hey, read this shit that I read a few years ago, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, we're all here to explore. Maybe at some point, if you want, I could try to find a recommendation of my own.
You can do whatever the hell you want. I'm not your boss.
All right, fine, good, because I'm the boss.
Wait, you are?
Yeah, I'm gonna kick your ass.
Okay, you go find all the comics then.
All right, yeah, sweet.
And
wait, no, I don't want to do that. You do it now.
Oh shit! I just realized it's a lot of reading. Crap.
Yeah, I was like, shit. It's more fucking reading I have to do in addition to my other podcast,
which is about reading.
Yeah, which is also about reading or seeing movies.
You already have 2 other ones that are about what
essentially the same thing.
Damn it! I just have that knowledge of stuff that I've read in the past that I can just come up with something like, oh, let's fucking read the Punisher, I guess, whatever.
Yeah, fucking Punisher, jerk, dickhead.
Which is what we read this past week, or at least what I read and you read some of.
Yeah, I've read a little bit of it. I'm going to be gone next week, but while I'm on vacation, I'm going to have a lot of time to read, so I will not be shocked to read it next week.
I will probably have a secret recommendation for you while you are out.
Secret.
It's a secret.
I love secrets.
Maybe some Doc Strange secrets.
Ooh, that'd be interesting.
I was actually as soon as I heard that you were going to go on vacay, I'm like, I probably should figure out some Doc Strange stuff so that we could both have a little bit of opinions on the Sorcerer Supreme.
Yes. It'll help you break it up between reading Game of Thrones and Dark Tower trilogy while I'm down there as well, or Dark Tower series, whatever it is.
God, the Dark Tower, my God.
Oof. Is that a good my God or bad my God?
I couldn't get past the 4th book.
Okay. Well, I'll find out. I'll see how it is.
I'll just say this. To me, it felt like the entire 4th book was a flashback book.
Oof. Well,
of like 900 pages of a flashback.
I'm getting into reading again, so I'm kind of discovering things as I go along and trying to see what's
I'm
good.
going to dig into Stephen King's magnum opus. Let's do this.
Yeah. Well, I started with Game of Thrones, so clearly I'm setting myself up for lofty ambitions. Do you like that I found a new hobby that requires me to read even more?
Yeah, exactly. Fucking Christ. Go read something smaller. How fast do you read?
I can get through. I'll probably get the first book of Game of Thrones in like a week, a little less.
Week? A little less? That's about, what, 800 pages?
This one's about 900 something.
I'm guessing you have the...
No, it's a little more, about 850.
850, and it's a soft cover.
Yeah, paperback.
So that means that in hardcover, it was probably a little bit of bigger typeface, probably about 800 pages.
Yeah, probably a little bit.
So 800 pages a week. Getting through the Dark Tower will probably take you 7 million years.
We'll see. Again, I only bought the first book.
Oh, the Gunslinger's fucking short. That's like, what, 30 pages? No, it's probably about 100. No, it's about 200 at the most.
I was going to say, it's probably like 300, 400, I don't know.
No, it's tiny.
All right, fair enough. Well, I got that, and I got Dresden Files, so I've got some new series to catch up on.
A little more side note on reading. I actually am a very fast reader, which is why, like, before we did this podcast, I was getting ready to do dinner, and I'm like, I got a half an hour to kill. I'll read some Punisher, and I read through like 6 issues in that half an hour because I read really fast.
I got through a little bit of Punisher as well. I got through a couple chapters of it. Or issues of it.
There you go.
See where it's all coming together. It's all blending together. I don't know which thing is which anymore.
I keep reading from like fucking right to left in these Punisher comics.
It's so weird. What the fuck? Why does Punisher kill a guy then unkill him? It's so stupid.
I know, it's weird.
It's always hard to fucking read dialogue too. It's like it's going backwards or something. Yeah. I've read the first 2 issues.
Welcome to Max.
It's definitely a kick in the balls, sort of like
shock.
Yeah, here you go. This is different. There's fucking guts on your page.
Here's fucking people exploding and talk about dicks and the word fuck every other word.
But I mean, I somewhat expect that because I know what the kind of Daredevil people like is the super violent one. You know, the
Punisher,
games.
not Daredevil.
Daredevil. God damn it. Punisher. Sorry. The Punisher people like is the violent one because, you go back to that video game and, one of the biggest things from it was you could interrogate people and then, fucking viciously, violently murder them afterwards. You got points for it.
Yes.
So I know that that's an attachment to him, and seeing it here, I can definitely understand
it's
where
everybody else.
Yeah. So it's cool seeing that. Some of the writing, though, is hanging me up on it. So I'm going to keep reading. Hopefully it kind of expands beyond what I've gotten thus far, and the writing kind of picks up. But I do dig it. Not crazy in the art, but...
Yeah, the art is very early 2000s.
I'm just not a fan, and this applies to everything. I have the same problem with manga like this, too. I have a problem with series that when they paint bad characters, they always make them as hideous and misshapen as possible. I don't know why. It just always feels lazy to me.
Well, they do what they end up doing with the Punishers once they introduce some of the not so grotesque characters and they make them look better. They do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's because since the Punisher tends to kill people really quickly, they kind of have to do that little bit of shorthand. Like, by the way, this guy's ugly, so he's the villain because he's going to get killed 3 panels from now.
Yeah, and I mean, kind of understand. Just my personal taste.
Yeah. But it's one of those, that's the biggest thing I can say about jumping from what we've been reading to Max. It's so weird to see people say fuck all the time and people's heads exploding, people being cut in half by machine gun fire. Mm-hmm. I actually had that culture shock too because I read this stuff 4, 5, 6 years ago. And back then I think I was a little more into it than I am now. Because I was rereading it, I'm like, I liked this? Huh. That was weird.
We all have that, though. We go back, we read something or play something or watch something from our childhood, and we're just like, I love this. And you see it again, you're just like, why did I?
I think it mainly has to do with the fact that I think that the Punisher as a character still holds up throughout these books. It's just everybody else doesn't. The Punisher is a great character in this books, and I love the fact that he is very uncompromising, and there's a part a little later on that you haven't read yet where his choices are either say yes or fuck you. So it's like, so my choices are yes or fuck you. Yes, fuck you. And it's like, that's the Punisher to me. Somebody actually very talks about the Punisher later on in the book where he's like a caged tiger who has that look in his eye where if you look at it's like you see in his eyes that he's going to kill you the wrong movie that he makes, and that look in his eyes that he knows that you know that that's going to happen and you're still going to do it anyways. Mm-hmm. And he's still going to kill the shit out of you because that's what he does. And it's like, that is the Punisher. The guy who does not care. You did bad. You're on his list. You're dead.
Yeah.
And that's when the character, I feel, is at his best. Not when he's brought down a few levels, when he's given humanity. I like it when he has a sliver of humanity. But not
you like him as very dark. You like the fact that he's like an anti-hero.
I like that he's uncompromising. I like the fact that he holds to his code and he never lets go. And the only time he ever wavers is when he fucks up. Mm-hmm. One of the parts of Warzone, Punisher Warzone, the movie, he kills an innocent. And it really fucks with him because he accidentally killed an undercover cop. Mm-hmm. And he can't really deal with it until he makes it right by his family. And the family wants none of it because it's the fucking Punisher.
It's just like, go away!
He just kind of shows up and it's like, oh god. And by the way, it's Julie Benz in the movie.
Julie Benz? Where's...
the girlfriend to Dexter?
I never watched Dexter.
Ah, damn.
Sorry.
But yeah, she's kind of awesome in that, and that has a few great scenes of guys' head just getting blown up with a shotgun. But no, the Punisher does work his best as a force of nature, not as a person. He's one of those very few people that I can say that about, because I hate it when they make Batman like that. Because Batman is still a character. He's still a person. There is a Bruce Wayne and a Batman. There is nobody but the Punisher.
There's no Frank Castle, essentially. You're like, there's just Punisher.
The moment he puts the skull on his chest for the first time, Frank Castle's dead. And I like the fact that it has to deal with the fact that eventually he has to deal with his demons that he himself has created. And some of the arcs has to deal with, are you just getting off on the killing at this point?
Yeah.
And
I mean, he seems like he's a really interesting character in that regard.
and that's where I like him as a character. I don't like him tortured. I don't like him brooding.
You like him just going off, killing people.
As I said, that he's a force of nature. That he is something that you cannot you cannot talk to, you cannot do anything along those lines. The moment he sets his sights on you, you're dead, and you don't.
Now, do you like him appearing in other books? I know right now they're currently running a series called Original Sins that he's in. And
I don't mind him in other books. The problem is I tend to have a little issue with the 616 Punisher, where he is that thing I talked about, where he has complexity, he has some nuance to him, and he's a little tortured. He's not the Max version where he is the force of nature. The Punisher in traditional 616 is more of an actual character.
Yeah, there's still a Frank Castle.
There's a little bit of a Frank left, and since he's been going for so long, they have to kind of make it. When you're running a series for 40 plus years of a character, I think he's been around for that long. When you're running a series for that long, you have to do that. Mm-hmm. Or else you're just going to have, well, this week Punisher blows the head off a mob boss again. But when you're running like 20 issues of a comic, you could do that. And just make him like he's a hurricane of guns. And that's him as a character. But as an Original Sin, I imagine he's still the other Frank where he doesn't just murder people because they are a pimp.
Yeah. I can see it. I want to kind of see both sides of them and see which one I kind of like best. I generally tend to like characters who have nuance to them, but I may be able to see it in your perspective. And
yeah, it's just Frank is one of those very interesting characters in that way, where the more complexity you give him, it makes you question his motivations. Mm-hmm. Because this is a man who's being tortured for the rest of his life by the death of his family, that he caused, in his eyes, his wife and his children to die. So he's killing everybody else in response. So you start making him tortured, have nuance and whatnot. It kind of takes away from the fact that he's supposed to be a murder machine. So it's like, oh, he's like, should I be killing all these people? And it's like, but that's Frank. That's what he does.
Yeah, he kills people.
He kills people. And or that could be just my personal bias of a character like that, whereas I really like him when he's in that way. And he can be written very well when he has some nuance to him. I unfortunately have not bumped into that yet. Then again, 616 did give us Frankencastle.
Frankencastle.
Frank Castle died, and Mobius brought him back from the dead.
Huh.
You never heard of Frankencastle?
No.
You're getting an image, my friend.
Yay?
Frankencastle. Images.
Send. Sext.
You ready to be horrified?
Go for it.
Enjoy.
Let's see here. What does this look like? Come on. Oh my god. It's kind of badass in a terrifying way.
Yeah, but what the fuck, right?
Yeah, like this just exists in the MCU, or not the MCU, the 616?
For a little while, yes.
How did they undo this?
I can't remember.
How do you undo this? I don't understand. He's got fucking pipes. He's got an engine on his shoulder. How do you just undo that? Like he got better. He got better from fucking stitches being stitched together.
Well, I think Mobius probably had something to do with that. Which, if you don't know, Mobius is a vampire from the Spider-Man line.
Really, I thought he'd be a Blade villain.
No, he was at one time, but he's supposed to be. He's not a vampire. He is like a genetic. Like, he's a vampire bat mixed with human DNA.
What is his name? Mobius?
Mobius.
Does he have a title?
Mobius.
Okay, I thought he had, like... I don't know why. I thought I heard a title before, Mobius the Living Strip.
I think he might be, like, the living bat or something like that, or the living vampire.
Mobius the Living Vampire. I don't know where I heard the Mobius the Living Strip. Oh, maybe I'm thinking Mobius strips.
Yeah, you are thinking Mobius strips. But yeah, Mobius is he's not a vampire. He just happens to be a human crossed with a vampire bat.
Blade's another character that if Doctor Strange works out, they might be able to fit him into a movie.
Jesus Christ, how do you shove Blade back into this universe? I don't think Blade can fit in the MCU.
Yeah, possibly, yeah. Might be right.
It's like, by the way, there's also vampires, too.
But they've been secret. That's why we haven't known about them.
And
that's why Doctor Strange is going to be key to me. How do they explain that we haven't encountered this stuff before?
By the way, what'd you think of that second picture?
That second picture I've been trying to ignore because it's very derp.
Franken Castle.
It's like they took the first one, which was terrifying, and then the second one where they were like, make him hold on. He's just like, hold on there, Spider-Man. Frank Castle, the Punisher, is here to help you.
By the way, the reason is because the first one you were looking at is a cover.
Ah, so they wanted him to look cool. And then in the actual fucking comic, they were just like, I don't know, make him look like he's fucking stupid or something. I don't know. He's robot legs.
I'm Franken Castle.
Does he even have the mind of a person? Like, what was the point of, like, why wouldn't you just make a fucking, mechanical monstrosity or something?
I'm waiting for you to check this next one.
Franken Castle, so they even called him that.
Yeah, that's not a nickname.
Okay. This was its own run?
It's one of those things where since the character changed so much, they had to rebrand it for a little bit.
Ah. But it's still part of the same, because I see a 21 up there. I doubt they had Franken Castle running around with 21 issues.
No, that's a long ass time.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll dig into Franken Castle at some point, because that sure was a thing.
Let's wait to do that. Oh, that sounds just awful.
Yeah.
And that cover art's cool, but outside of that, oh my god.
Oh yeah, Franken Castle and Dark Wolverine.
I forgot that comic book artists do stupid stuff sometimes, or comic book creators rather.
I'm just sitting here still laughing about Franken Castle because that was the moment where I went, yeah, I'm good with never reading 616.
Yeah, I'm good with this.
You kind of see why I prefer the Max version?
I can see it. I mean, look, when you give your character 40 years of history that you have to adhere to, you kind of start running out of shit to do with them. You start making things really complicated.
And you make him into a Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah, because you're like, I have to do something. And that's the thing, because I've been vaguely hearing about things that are going on with Captain America right now. And I bought a couple issues a while back, and they talked about how he went to Dimension Z, and he had an entire life there or something like that, and then he left, and it was the struggles of coming back to another world again. I was like, oh, that sounds kind of weird. But I guess now they're just like, well, we don't know what to do with him, so we're gonna take the super serum out of him.
Oh god damn it!
And I'm just like, why have you run out of everything to do with the character? Where you're just like, what's something we can do with this? Let's take the super serum out. Done. It's just like, no, that's a bad idea. Just if that's what your solution is for the character, then fucking let them rest for a while, because that's not interesting.
Welcome to comics, bro.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing about comics that I'm never gonna get over. I'm just like, just fucking stop. Just stop doing things for this character for a while.
I guess you're more used to that in manga, where they don't do that, do they?
Well, manga don't have that, because manga is always written by one creator, so the creator always has a beginning, middle, and end in mind. Even if their series has to run for forever and ever and ever, they're never going to reach a point where they're just like, well, fuck it, let's take all the powers out of this character.
Goku's now a zombie. Go.
To be fair, Bleach has done that a couple times, where they've just been like, all right, Ichigo lost all of his powers, but he gets new ones. But that's
okay. The way that it kind of works is like what we're talking about with comics is the norm, whereas with manga it's more the exception.
Yeah, it doesn't happen that often. Most series just run for a while, and they'll introduce new arcs and new powers and things like that. But yeah.
And to be honest, when we're talking about comics here, we're talking about more of the mainstream comics. When you've got stuff like Spawn's been written by the same guy forever. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they'll bring in guest writers or people, or there'll be a torch handing off, but then it's one person writing it. You're not going to have, Spider-Man's going to be written for 3 years by this guy, then this guy, and by the way, we're writing 3 different Spider-Man comics at the same time, and they're all written by different people.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, you're not going to get like One Piece written by Eiichiro Oda and then someone else is writing Zoro.
2 Piece.
Yeah, you're just like, that doesn't exist. One person creates it, the series never cross over each other. So you're never going to have oh, I liked, Naruto when he was written by so-and-so as opposed to Kishimoto or something like that, because it doesn't happen. You either like a series or you don't.
Mm-hmm. But, yeah, so once again, welcome to comics, man.
It's the initiation. It's the hazing I guess I have to go through to read some of this crap.
That's why you tend to follow the same writers.
Mm-hmm. You kind of jump to the books they are working on.
You kind of jump to the books that they're writing, and then you kind of go, well, as long as it keeps with the tone of that person, then you're okay. This is also your crash course into Garth Ennis, isn't it?
Yeah, this is.
Yeah, I forgot when I was doing my research on Garth Ennis that he wrote the Nick Fury Max, which was not very well liked. He made Nick Fury into a really bad person.
Oh, joy.
You know how much swearing is in this book? Tripled in that book.
Oof.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, we'll see how that goes eventually when we come to that bridge. We'll cross it.
I don't know how much Max we're going to really do, mainly because Max is never, ever going to have the MCU.
Oh, yeah.
They're the closest that we'll have to an R-rated MCU film might be Blade. Because how could you do Blade PG-13?
Yeah, true.
I mean, just like you cannot do a PG-13 Punisher again. You just cannot. It feels wrong to do that to the Punisher. I don't know. But, so there's going to be no comic recommendation this week. Because, as I said, I'm going to be reading some Doc Strange, and I think we're taking next week off.
Yeah, I'm gone next week. I mean, you can do it alone if you want.
No.
I'm not going to stop you.
I'm good. I'm very good. But yeah, so we're going to be taking next week off, no recommendations. We'll come back next week, and I'll have a new recommendation. Maybe something in the theme of an X-Men book. Maybe not. Maybe who knows.
Okay.
I see, because the thing is that, as I've mentioned quite a few times, that my history with comic books was Spider-Man, X-Men, so Batman. So going out of that zone, I didn't do until much later.
And that's understandable. My dad likes comics, but he was only really a Spider-Man, X-Men kid.
Yeah, and I need to get out of that zone, and it's really difficult. Like Guardians, I wish I had read that when that was running.
Yeah.
Getting that week to week would have been amazing. Just going, my God, Guardians, nom, 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 nom. It was so good. And I love the fact that something that we touched on very briefly, Feige in the interview confirmed that is the Guardians that they're emulating in the movie.
Yeah.
That exact team. And I'm like, that is good. Good. That's what I was hoping for. Not the recent line, not the 80s line, which was a lot more serious. They're going after the early 2000s line, which is fantastic because that was such a good book. And who the hell knows? I mean, I get recommendations all the time. Unfortunately, I got a bunch of people hounding me to read more Transformers books, and I'm like, I gotta read this shit.
Like, they're not gonna do a fucking Transformers book in the Marvel movies. I can't do it.
No, I have enough comics I have to read right now. But we need to read more She-Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely to read more She-Hulk, because that was good as hell. That was really
very good.
Okay, then I'll mention this to you, Chris.
Okay.
Who would you like to read about? Other than Doc Strange.
I'd like to read a little bit about Daredevil, definitely.
Okay, I'll find some essential Daredevil stuff.
It brings up a point I heard recently that Elektra currently has her own solo series going on right now that is actually supposedly being very well received. So just something to bring up there. Another character I'd really like to read about. That's interesting. I almost have to stop and think about who all the options are. I haven't really read anything Iron Man related or even Thor related.
Iron Man, I have a very easy one to just instantly say that we should read.
Okay.
I know the Iron Man one off the top of my head, which is a movie I would love for them to make, but they never would, which is called Armor Wars.
Oh, okay.
Armor Wars is one of the quintessential books. We are eventually, when we get to our plan, when we get to the movies, the MCU films, which is going to be the lead up to Avengers 2, I believe, is what we were planning on that to be.
Yeah.
We're going to be reading the comics that inspired those films.
Okay.
And the one that the other quintessential book to read is the single issue called Demon in a Bottle, which was part of the inspiration behind Iron Man 2. Some of the good stuff in Iron Man 2 before they made it not about alcoholism. Where they just swept it being an alcoholic under the rug.
Miss Marvel stuff, actually, I'd really like to check out, too.
That one I will write down. Miss Marvel. But yeah, and I'm still trying to figure out, because some people said, about the big event things, that the Avengers is pretty much the Skull-Kree War as a movie, and I'm kind of like, kinda.
Yeah, I can see it.
Ish. But yeah, so we got all that stuff down the line. So yeah, actually I will write down Armor Wars, because I have to figure out which Armor Wars. There's I think 3 in total.
Is there any good Black Panther stuff out there?
I don't know him that well, so Black.
And also put Namor down there. I want to see him at some point, just so I can be like, no, let's definitely never do a movie on this guy.
Namor, Man-Thing. I forgot about Man-Thing.
Good old Man-Thing. He's confirmed to exist in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, the other Swamp Thing guy.
Yep.
But no, Armor Wars was done twice in 616 and one in Ultimate. And if memory serves, the Ultimate version was pretty good too. But the problem is this was an Iron Man event book about multiple people in armored suits. So watch the whooshing of things you don't know go right over your head. Because
I'm just like, who's this guy?
Oh, this guy. Luckily, there was how many of Iron Man's villains in Avengers or Mightiest Heroes?
Oh, God, there were, like, every one of them showed up at some point. Crimson Dynamo, Technivore, fucking everybody felt like they showed up there at some point or another.
You know what? I forgot about the Technivore episode. That one wasn't bad.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
I heard the movies got awful.
Yeah, I heard that too. Punisher's in that too.
Oh, good.
Yay. But, by the way, speaking of that, that's a bit of news you didn't mention.
What's that?
Avengers Assemble is coming to Netflix very soon.
I did not know
I
that.
believe it is either out now or it is going to be at the start of the month, which is usually when Netflix adds new things.
Now, is that...
That's the new series.
Did you like it at all?
I haven't watched it. I've heard about it.
I don't know. Okay.
I'm actually checking right this second, and it is already available for streaming.
Okay, there we go. I might check that out at some point. Once I finish with Justice League.
I'm looking at the artwork, and I'm going, ooh.
That's not a good sign.
I have to send this to you quickly so you can see the banner.
Okay.
Look at the banner, and I want to hear your reaction.
Let's see here. To be fair, Earth's Mightiest Hero didn't have the greatest art style.
But it was still better.
The Iron Man's what really holds me up. The rest of it looks like it could be okay, but that Iron Man just looks like he has no detail in him. So it's just like red blob with some gold trimmings.
He also looks like he's straight out of Rob Liefeld.
Yeah, a little bit. Hulk's face is also kind of a little off. It's almost like paper cutouts of these characters or something. Like it just doesn't feel like the shading's right on them.
Positive sides is that the same actor who played Hulk in Earth's Mightiest Heroes is back, Fred Tascator.
Mm-hmm.
And Troy Baker's in this too.
Very good.
And Troy Baker is pretty fucking good.
Does Captain America kick a massive amount of ass?
I do not know.
I hope so.
If he does.
Otherwise, I won't watch it.
I'm actually trying to figure out who Troy Baker plays. I think Troy Baker might be Hawkeye, if memory serves me correctly. And I'm actually going to find that out right now. Yes, I was actually quite correct. He is Hawkeye and Loki.
Oh, kind of looks like Loki.
Yeah, well, you know what? Let's be honest. Troy Baker is the new Nolan North, who's a little better at his job.
Ooh, that's Fighting's words.
Yeah, well, Nolan North is really good as a Nolan North character.
Yeah.
I also play a lot more video games.
That's true.
I'm also reading this. John DiMaggio is Galactus and Thanos in the series. And it's like down the line, way down, Ant-Man and Seth Green as Rocket Raccoon.
Well, it's good that Rocket Raccoon gets to show up. Do you know he's starting to become the new generation Wolverine? He's showing up in fucking everything.
Well, I think as soon as people found out that he's metal as shit,
they're like, he's cool. They're just Marvel's like, put him in everything.
Yeah,
he showed up in Original Sin.
Well, yeah. Well, Rocket is a fan favorite character, but we've been running a little long.
All right,
So
I'll shut up.
No, it's okay. I just kind of checked the time, like, oh, we have been talking for a little while. Because I think we started very close to when we started talking on Skype.
Yeah, it was kind of like, hey, what's up, Fragger? Hey, what's up? Let's go MCU podcast!
Wait, what?
What?
But yes, so that has been us this week. We will be off next week. Thank God we're actually telling you guys this time. Boom. So we'll be back in 2 weeks with hopefully not the last time we took a week off where everything happened.
Yeah, well, I'll leave this week. The moment I get down to the beach house, it'll be like, fucking Jared Leto's, or fucking Aidan Gillian's gonna be playing Doctor Strange, interview of the villain, the Black Panther movie got announced.
Black Panther, played by Idris Elba. And we're like,
It's
oh
happening.
my God. Idris Elba plays everyone.
And Charlize Theron's going to be playing Miss Marvel in the movie as well. They're going to use it to launch her solo movie.
And we're like, what are you doing, Marvel? Stop it.
Stop it. It's still awesome.
I don't know about Charlize Theron as Miss Marvel, though.
It could work.
There's better people for that role.
All right. Well, that's a topic for another day.
Yes, it is. So we will see you guys next time. And I guess I have a week to come up with a topic.
Yes.
Whatever. Who cares?
You do it.
See you guys next time.
Later. 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 Later.